Thank you. You guys, I think I speak for all four of us that we are so honored to be here and to be a part of today's activities and to be looking out over this sea of people here. So thank you guys for being here. First off, I'm going to give you the quick little reminder of what GMOs are, just in case I know that a lot of you did the entire march, and we are so grateful to you for doing that. But in case we have a couple people who are joining us also or happen to be listening as they walk on past, here's what genetically modified foods are. They're generally called GM or GE foods. GE stands for genetically engineered foods. Sometimes they're called Roundup Ready crops or HT crops, which is the herbicide tolerant crops. And they basically, here's what it is. When you take an organism and you inject the particles from another plant, an animal, a virus, or a bacteria to create an organism that's not naturally found or that isn't even the result of crossbreeding. So we don't find it in nature. These are things that we are doing in labs. And we do it for a couple different reasons. One, so that these plants can be tolerant to the herbicides that are sprayed on them. So that as these really harsh chemicals are sprayed on these plants, it doesn't kill the plants themselves and it just kills the weeds. It makes them tolerant to these nasty chemicals, which is a pretty scary thing. It also makes plants produce toxins that kill agricultural insects. So as these pests, these agricultural pests come onto the plants, the plant itself will kill those pests. I don't know about you guys, but this is all starting to sound like a lot of food that's glowing green, the color of our t-shirts. It's not natural stuff, it's nasty stuff. And why am I concerned? Well, it's a concern for a couple different reasons. It's a concern for environmental reasons and health reasons. According to research from the Organic Center, in the first 13 years of GE crops, we saw an increase of 383 million pounds of pesticides and agricultural chemicals. So a whole lot more chemicals are being sprayed on these crops as a result of the regulations that are allowing GE and genetically modified crops. 383 million pounds more were sprayed in the first 13 years. It's also a concern for health reasons. We are a human experiment. We don't know the long-term ramifications of ingesting foods and becoming exposed to foods like this. In 30 other countries around the world, including countries like Japan, Australia, the European Union, there are bans or restrictions on genetically modified foods. In the U.S., that is not the case. In fact, we are still approving more and more crops. We just approved GE alfalfa. We approved GE sugar beets. We are increasing in the number of genetically modified foods in this country rather than decreasing. And that's why we are up here today. We want to see that change. They're everywhere today. They were just introduced in 1996, but as of today, 86% of the corn and 93% of the soybeans that are grown in this country are genetically modified. That's really scary. And also a huge percentage of sugar, beets, canola, and cotton, which means that the ingredients that are produced from those individual foods, ingredients like sugar and corn syrup that are in so many packaged foods, are also containing genetically modified foods. It's a scary, scary thing, and by some estimates, as much as 70 to 80% of the packaged food products on our shelves today contain some sort of genetically modified ingredient, which means we are being exposed every single day. Unless you are eating a strict diet of organic foods, you are most likely being exposed. And here's why I care. I care for 3 reasons. I care because, as Maria mentioned, I grew up around this. I watched my dad and a number of other people around this country start some of these pioneer companies that paved the way for organic, natural, healthy foods to become mainstream in this country. And over the last 30+ years, I've become really, really proud of the work that my dad did and a lot of these other people did, so much so that I joined forces and started working with it also. But what I see happening now is GM crops threatening all of that. And the genetically modified foods that are making their way into the food system is threatening the really good work that began in this country a few decades ago. That's one reason I care. I care also because I am on the board of directors of the Organic Center, and I know that one sure way to make sure you are not eating genetically modified foods is to eat organic foods. And if we can help people to understand that by eating organics means you are not getting genetically modified foods or ingredients in your system, then that is a job well done. And I care thirdly, lastly, and most importantly because I am a mom. And I know that we are the human experiment with all of this. And I am not willing to allow my 15-year-old or 15-month 15-month-old little girl, yes, before I know it, I'm sure 15 years old. But I am not willing to allow my 15-month-old little girl to become that experiment. I won't have it. And so I'm standing here today, sitting here with all of you to demand the labeling of genetically modified foods. If we can't stop it outright right now, we at least have the right to know when it is showing up in our foods. I want that to happen so that when my daughter eats somewhere else and someone chooses a food product for them, she is not threatened by genetically modified foods. We have to band together, we have to stay together, and we have to demand that we have the right to know whether GE foods are in our food system. Thank you, guys.